Excellent. Welcome to the Tech Summit online conference. We have the authors of the new book, Social Engineering 2030. That is Matt Holland and Enrico, who we've had several presentations from now. So we know Visha. We are really excited by what's going on there. But Matt is a new face. So Matt, maybe you could introduce yourself, please.
Hi guys, yeah, Matt Holland here. I'm a Londoner with about 30 years of cybersecurity background behind me. Sort of risen up through engineering, architecture, through to CISO roles. I've spent the last 5 years or so in startups with Enrico, and now an author.
On Amazon,
Yeah,
absolutely. And we'll have the link there so everybody can order
It's
the
real.
book. Yay!
Awesome.
And because, of course, Enrico's there, there has to be a cat in the picture.
Of course. Of course. Actually, for this one was Matt's idea. So I need to give him credits for once.
Tell you
Excellent.
what, I've known which arguments over the last 5 years, which arguments to pick and which ones to concede on. Cat on the cover was never going to be one I was going to win, so start with that.
That's great. So we've got a little bit of background. So maybe Matt, Enrico, you could provide a sort of overview of what the book's about, what you're trying to achieve, so people can get a taste of what they're going to get when they order it.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, sure. As we were just discussing earlier, we run a platform around phishing education, phishing simulation. As we've been talking to our customers on that, we found actually the issue, the fear around social engineering, the operation of AI in there is a much wider issue than the one we're solving on platform. We've come to learn and inspect the idea that the whole dynamics of social engineering are changing and much faster than we thought, much faster. We've seen a lot of live incidents over the last 6 months in various sectors.
Yeah.
You know, scattered spider has become almost a de facto word for it, whether it's them or not every time, who knows? But we're seeing a lot more activity. We're seeing a lot more sophistication in the attack. We're seeing a lot of entrants into the game that would have previously not been performing social engineering.
Yeah.
We're seeing better quality in it. So the actual content, the ideas of sort of Nigerian print scam emails where typos and spelling mistakes were a de facto part.
Yeah.
Now they're not. There's no aspect of that that's involved. If anything, we're finding that social engineers are having to dumb down the quality because it looks a little too good.
Gotcha.
So we're seeing quality go up. We're also seeing new aspects of it, like the idea of doing voice cloning. Previously would have been complicated. You go back maybe a year, it was
Yeah.
certainly technically feasible, but there was a relatively high bar. You'd have had to know what you're doing. You'd have had to pay for some service and spent hours deliberating on it. We clone voices in our platform in 60 seconds.
Yeah.
It's a relatively trivial thing if you're on the right side of the line.
Understood. Understood. So with Scattered Spider, just to help those who don't know about it, maybe you could provide a quick introduction.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Do you
Yeah,
want to
no. Scatter Spider, one of the most prolific ransomware gangs. They've been running for now a few years. Recently, very active also in the UK. So they've targeted a multitude of organizations, allegedly M&S,
Yeah.
Cobb, a bunch of others in the retail space. They then kind of moved on to the insurance and then airline, mostly in the US. But the reason they're interesting to us is they often use voice social engineering to target organization as an entry vector.
Gotcha.
So they call the help desk, generally speaking. They pretend to be an employee that has lost access to their accounts,
Yeah.
and they talk their way through to reset passwords, and then they're in. So that when they're in, they kind of perform the usual kind of lateral movement, data exfiltration, or double extortion, or encryption, all the usual type of playbook.
Gotcha.
But the interesting bit is how easy it's been for them to kind of leverage that voice social engineering aspect.
Gotcha. Understood. Now, maybe just we should step back a bit just for the newbies listening in, is what is social engineering? And maybe you could provide some very dumb examples of how it's used in the past and in the present.
Yeah, talk about the past, Matt.
Yeah.
I'll talk about the future.
There's an incident we start off with in the book about a guy in Paris who sold the Eiffel Tower 5 times over by pretending to be a French civil servant.
Yeah.
You know, in essence, it's a manipulation of power, authority, or other psychological levers. You know,
Yeah.
empathy, sympathy for one,
Yeah.
urgency. It's using those levers to manipulate somebody else to get the outcome that you want.
Gotcha.
And typically that's for fraud, something nefarious. Doesn't have to be.
Yep. Yep. So it's essentially social engineering is the art of the con.
Yes. Yeah,
Correct.
exactly that. Timeless art of the con.
It's nothing new. It's now in parallel with technologies and how those levers enable that con to be scaled far more significantly across an organization, across a platform.
So I just wanted to throw in something because a lot of times we focus on social engineering as a crime, as opposed to differentiating it from a sale. And I'm not going to get into the ethical quandary here, but you know, the things that you're talking about are human behavioral. Cialdini's study into what motivates people, you know, what incentivizes them, and that's why you'll see you must act now, you know, so a sense of urgency, you say, or you know, or this fear of missing out, or whatever it is. But those techniques are same techniques that arguably are used in sales.
Yes.
And in Cialdini's his book, or one of the many books he's written, he talks about doing the research on car sales, which I thought was very interesting because it's a big ticket item. But the methods that he used, the way I read it, these are ways to make yourself a better salesperson by understanding your audience and understanding what you can control to motivate them or to encourage them and I think the implication was in an ethical manner.
Yeah.
Now, when we talk about social engineering, it has a negative context, excuse me.
Yeah.
Is it, and I'm not asking if this is in your book, it's kind of an esoteric question, but does social engineering have to be bad? Can it be used for good?
I think maybe it depends on the audience and the conversation, doesn't it? So here we are, a bunch of cybersecurity professionals, all sat around a table that's very familiar with the term social engineering, and we're all going to come into that conversation with certain interpretations of that. I think once you start to scratch the surface, Cialdini's stuff is awesome, by the way. I think we refer to it a lot within the book because it's so powerful and so easily understood as well. But those underlying concepts, they're dominant in any interaction. You know, it doesn't matter whether it's sales, hacking, you know, your relationship with your partner. You know, they're just terms to describe how two people or more than two people interact.
Gotcha.
How are you exerting a force in a conversation?
I'm not allowed to make jokes about my wife anymore, so I'm gonna just not.
You see, that's her socially engineering the situation to get her answer.
And very well, am I, Dad?
Yeah, that's the problem. We're recorded. So when you say something and it's like, it's just a light-hearted comment. No!
Cut.
I have one question to Matt and Enrico, please. So I tested around 10 neobanks applications, mostly mobile and web, and some of them use voice for authentication. So I have a choice like Face ID, biometrics, or voice. So if someone will clone my voice, they can easily authenticate and drop me.
Yes.
That's why I think your not only book but product and trainings, they are extremely important nowadays. How can you show on real examples people that it's easy and how fast they can clone my voice. Even from this podcast, maybe they can extract and clone my voice.
Yeah. If you give us permission in writing, we can do that very easily after the pod.
The problem, Bodan, is that is exactly like Matt said, is we're a bunch of cybersecurity people sitting around talking about a security topic. We're not the target. The target is people that don't know anything, that they're just they're a worker, they're an employee, maybe they have a small business, whatever. It doesn't matter. Everyone is a potential target. And if you could get a list of cybersecurity professionals, you would probably use it to scrub and never message because you're wasting your time.
Yeah.
If such a thing exists. But you bring up a good point, because somebody was saying this morning about, my mother, I'm a cybersecurity professional and my mother got some kind of catfishing scam. Okay. And I feel very strongly about this, and I haven't read your book yet, so I don't know your position on this, but blaming the victim is never going to be a good thing in my perspective. You may disagree, but blaming the victim and making them embarrassed to come forward is never going to make the situation right. And in light of that, I made a comment. I said, I will admit this every day. I have clicked the link. I've done it. I'm old. Before I was smarter, wiser, more educated, I'm sure I clicked links left and right. I've caught myself in the last couple of years going, and I'm a lot more paranoid and suspicious because I live this every day. If you don't live this every day, your sensitivity to the abnormal, oh, well, the picture's off a little bit. Oh, well, the color is not the same as their logo, or when I mouse over, it gives me a different link. The things that we standardly look for because we live it every single day. But we have to remember, and I think this is a problem with cybersecurity as a whole, is we talk to each other.
Yeah.
And we already know the answer. So all we're doing is like dancing in the mirror.
It's a bubble.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I had a couple of conversations this week, actually, that are really relevant here. So I think it was only yesterday, actually, I was speaking with the NCA, National Crime Agency in the UK, and they talked really briefly about one item that they're progressing internally that I thought was really powerful. And it was exactly as you've just said, Aaron. It's language about the victim. And NCA and various other sort of law agencies in the UK are taking a much stronger aim on awareness and training and preparation. They have a 3Ps program: prepare, prevent, and protect. And running like a solid thread through all of that is the language that they use so that they avoid. There was a really key phrase. They showed one example. Oh, the victim lost this money. And the person I was speaking to, they didn't bloody lose it. It was taken. It was stolen from them. They are a victim of crime. They didn't fall for something. Somebody manipulated a situation and hoodwinked them. There is a criminal involved and there's a victim. Let's use language that portrays that, which is really important when they take this more significant role in public awareness, making sure that everybody's familiar or at least knows these things happen and can be more sensitive to them. And for us, as we went through this book, that was the dominant thing, like the technical protections that we might have done a few years ago for malware, or years before that, where we'd be a security team that we're taking on the responsibility of protecting and preventing incidents in a company. It's gone. We've been saying that for years as an industry. It's a 360 program. It's everybody's role, and we're just the helpers. We're the informants and strategizers of it. Everyone does it. Law enforcement are now taking a much stronger position in exactly that flavor because they can't handle not in any way of their fault, they can't handle the deluge of the crime that's happening without society and public at large knowing about it.
Yep. No, that reminds me of the old phrase that used to always be, everyone's a salesman in an organization. Now everybody is part of the cybersecurity defense.
Yeah, definitely that. I think, again, inside the echo chamber of professionals in cyber, we've been saying that to each other for years, and then being a little bit frustrated when nobody else sort of takes their seat. But it's unavoidable going forward. You can't expect a small team who have been budget compressed for years to fix everybody's problems.
Exactly.
Well, I'm going to jump in here because I actually have a little bit of a hot take. when it comes to, let's say, the adversarial mindset, so if there's a situation that you want to look through the lens of an attacker, I think that mindset is effectively dead when it comes to social engineering, and it has been for the last probably 20 years. The mindset that is critically important is a counterintelligence one, because the fundamental definition of counterintelligence is to deny your enemy operating room within your battle space. Now that can be your cybersecurity team, your business, the mall, your house, your online space. So it's almost like a preemptive strike type thing. You should have it in your mind that you are going to get attacked and plan accordingly. Because saying, oh, I'm not going to get attacked, that's a fool's game. But saying I will 100% get attacked and adjust accordingly to the risk against it. Because fundamentally, and one of my favorite books that I just read was Atomic Habits by James Clear. And in the third chapter, he said the biggest shift on changing a person's habits is the fundamental change in identity. Now that comes from, instead of saying, let's take, for example, a cybersecurity person and somebody who is a victim of phishing. So the cybersecurity person would say, oh, well, I'm never going to fall for a phishing link. But the person who is the normal person, they might say, oh, well, I've fallen for it, so that's like not good.
Yeah.
But they don't know why. Whereas the change in identity comes from, oh, well, I don't know what that link is, so I'm not going to click it.
Yeah.
Because it removes any of the temptation.
Yeah.
And it rewards them over time by building new pathways.
Yeah.
Safe.
Well, you have to start with that seed, don't you? You have to give them a platform to start with that says some links might not be good.
Yeah.
And I might be going back a little in terms of like societally maturity. Many people would now know a dodgy email, you shouldn't click on it, but not everyone.
Yeah.
No,
I'd say fewer know now that not everybody that's on the end of the phone call is the person they're telling you they are.
Correct. Yeah.
And I think that we need to level that out a little bit because we're going to see more of that attack vector over time.
Correct. And should we just state clearly, don't use voice for identity, full stop?
Or I would say use some type of code word type authentication, like in World War II, when the Allies parachuted behind enemy lines.
Yeah.
The common word was flash, and the challenge response word was thunder, because the Germans have a very hard time pronouncing H.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Can be the same thing.
I have another crazy but realistic idea. What if I will use this AI for $10, $20, doesn't matter, with subscription to how you simulate, right? To play with simulations, then I will use another illegal tool for SIM swap, right? And I will clone SIM, even eSIM. Then I will call and write phishing SMSs. Same time will be robocalls to friends, relatives, parents, and they will send me money for sure. Mother, grandmother, wife, somebody will send money because they will listen. Okay, this is his voice. And also I know that they very often use some noisy atmosphere, like, okay, I am in a subway underground right now, it's noisy, or I am inside the airport, right? So, or I can even use it for e-espionage, like calling my colleagues and asking some confidential data, like, okay, I am calling to finance billing department and asking, you need to urgently send this transaction to pay this invoice because partner is angry, we'll lose. This is our trusted, valuable partner. Do it immediately. They will pay invoice. And what next?
Yeah.
Yeah, all three of those types that you've just described have been active for a couple of years now. The actual vector, the definition of them isn't particularly new. The change that we're seeing at a real sort of hyperbolic rate is the quality of the calls within them. So, like CFO impersonation, the last
Yeah.
type you mentioned, director fraud, leading to payment redirection. It's a very well known and very well measured type of fraud activity. What's happening now is the ability to clone a voice, as you were saying a second ago. You can use a fragment of voice to create something really authentic sounding. You add on other sort of proofs and validators, like bit of background noise, a little bit of open source intelligence, a little sort of relatable fact. You know, if you throw in I was just talking to John down in the hall, or whatever it is, it just adds to believability. It's back to Cialdini's levers again. There's no reason to doubt that I am Matt. Now I'm going to put in a bit of urgency, again, with some believability. It's about that deal we were talking about last week, which I've probably read on the news.
Yeah.
Put some pressure on, speed things up, make it a bit personal accountability. Bodan, it's only you that can make this deal work. You need to get on this payment straight away. And it all layers up. So the change that we're seeing, quality and speed and scale, sort of thing, the ability to run these things across 50 companies, because it's no longer one guy or an Asian sweatshop doing it. It's software, and it's push the button.
Good point. Now, jumping back to your book and some of the titillation you were providing in terms of, I think it was on the third chapter, going into the dark trajectory we've been taken on. Just interested on what you see as some of the risks, some of the issues emerging from this quality, speed, scale that we're seeing.
There's a lot. So there's the obvious ones. So losses, financial losses, where both consumers and organizations.
Yeah.
So both are equally targeted, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And so that's already happening. But as Mark was saying, as scale and quality kind of picks up, that we will see more.
Yeah.
But there's an interesting fact, which then becomes the kind of the erosion of trust in society.
Yes.
If you can't trust anything, you can't trust who's calling you, can't trust a video you see on Facebook, you can't trust like an email that you get which looks benign, then society will kind of lose all this trust in each other, which is what has been kind of moving society for thousands of years, like trusting each others and do business, etc., etc. So there will be a lot more friction in society because you need to add a lot more verifications, a lot more kind of steps to kind of acknowledge, oh, yes, it's really me who's calling. Oh, now do this mutual factor authentication because I need to prove it's you.
Yes.
But even that might not be trustable. So it goes back to we can only meet in person potentially in the future. And that obviously has implications for
everybody. Then we got to take a blood sample, get a note from your mother, all that stuff.
Yeah,
exactly.
Wasn't there some discussion about a universal ID card? Or have I been reading too much science fiction lately?
Yeah.
No, there's been loads of conversations about trying to make some sort of equivalence across it. The problem is everybody wants to be sovereign. So how do you sort of arbitrate that? It becomes and then you're actually giving away more identity data to more organizations, which is just another problem.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, in the US, we have like real ID is required because, like, if you're traveling within the US, you could just use your driving license. But the driving license now needs to be real ID. The problem with real ID is there's a 6-month waiting list to be able to get your driving license with the real ID verification and security wrapped around it. So, the way you can get around it is passport. But of course, surprisingly, quite a few Americans do not have a passport. So it's interesting. These transitions create, well, as you said, friction,
Yeah.
and as a result, people are being, well, they're not necessarily being turned away from the airport. My wife was traveling, and it was just down to Florida, and she was, well, I've got my, she'd forgotten her passport, so yeah, it was on my desk here actually, because I look after the family. It's how the dad does dad things, looking after family passports, because nobody can be trusted to look after themselves. But what they did, and it was really interesting, it was just an agent that had the authority who could look. I mean, it was with a particular airline, so they got the details of previous travel, and they just could look through the records and go, yeah, it's this person, so they can confirm their identity because they can search through additional information that can provide that verification. So I think Enrico hit the nail on the head. It's just more friction.
Yeah, and there's also another interesting kind of sideline, which is don't know if you've ever heard the liar's dividend kind of phenomenon.
No.
So if everything you see cannot be trusted, then bad guys that have been, for instance, caught on CCTV or with some images, videos, whatever,
Yeah.
they have they will have the opportunity to say, oh, this was fake. And you have no way to disprove that was fake because it's so indistinguishable from reality that you'll need forensics and so on. But even
Yes.
there, it's like 98% accurate. So they still have a chance of going out and say, oh no, it wasn't me that has been caught at the Coldplay concert last week.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Or like politicians or whoever. And I was reading an article the other day saying, oh, courts are not equipped for what's coming because at the minute they're taking evidence as real, most likely. Now, even like there's a new kind of TikTok phenomenon with like CCTV videos of, was a recent one where everybody believes that CCTV footage was actually real,
Yes.
but it was just AI generated thing. All that, I think it was a kid with dogs and whatever. Everybody was like, "Oh, that's crazy!" Yeah, and nobody knew it was AI generated.
Like on Reddit, where you have like the TikTok cringe, where it's like somebody caught a baby falling from somewhere, and it's like, you know what, that looks a bit staged to me, so everything becomes suspicious.
Yeah.
But
all you've got to do is mimic the flags of believability, haven't you? Like we trust CCTV because we think of it as being a factual capture. It's not. It's just a style of video.
Correct.
The minute you mimic that style, you're immediately inheriting the trustability of it.
Exactly. It's low quality, it's crap angles, but it shows sort of what was going on. Yeah.
I read that Denmark will be the first country protecting voice and digital identity.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to hear your opinions about that, because if someone will sell my digital identity or my voice, I don't want that. I want GDPR for everything I have. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we also talk about this in the book a bit, not about Denmark per se, because I think it was literally last week.
Yeah.
But the whole idea of government and legislation kind of stepping up and providing some guardrails, some legislation around all of this. Yes, it's great, it's needed, but unfortunately will not stop it because bad guys have never respected regulations and they often act from countries where there's no extradition treaties or countries where it's pretty difficult to get hold of you. So yes, regulation helpful, but not the not the end game.
Enrico, they have comfortable prisons in Denmark and Norway,
Very
right?
comfortable.
Like hotels. In some countries, they do not have even apartments like their prisons, with libraries, sport clubs, gyms, even swimming pools.
But in this emerging future, Matt, Enrico, how are you protecting yourself?
Mm. I'm not gonna mention that because this is recorded. No, no, I'd say it depends. I mean, some kind of standard cyber hygiene that's needed, but then like with close family and let's say I have a code word with them, that's fairly easy. It takes 5 minutes to kind of put in place.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then yeah, being paranoid, skepticism always
Yeah.
helps. I think there's a famous social engineer, ethical social engineer called Rachel Tobak. She's coined a sentence which is you always need to be politely paranoid.
Yeah.
Like there's no reason why you should be unpolite, but at the same time don't trust everything it is shown to you. So if you have a call, be skeptical, be polite, but be skeptical, and you need to verify who's calling.
Yeah.
So yeah, healthy dose of skepticism is what I use.
Yep. I know people like that. So I think that is a tendency that as a society, unfortunately, we need to adopt more broadly. And it is,
Yeah.
it's being polite, but just, yes, but in terms of getting
Yes.
this sort of verification in terms of what facts are currently being presented. So again,
Trust but verify, Alan.
yes,
Yeah.
just to verify.
True.
You got it.
And just to, oh,
Yes,
I'm sorry.
yes, Jack.
Go.
I was just going to say, just drop the first two words of that going forward. Is just verify.
Yes.
True.
Yeah.
I mean,
Smile, but verify.
Politely verify.
Go.
Okay, but here's
politely.
I was in a discussion and somebody said, "Do you trust me?" And I said, "Yes." And they said, "Then why do you need to verify?" And I didn't have a good answer for him.
I'm being
still don't.
polite. Of course, I trust you, Aaron, but I just need this little bit of information.
I mean,
I want to
sorry, go ahead.
add and share with you something about human behavior, how they analyze and collect those different human behavior and culture to prepare for social engineering, for all those phishing attacks, right? So now with AI technology, they do this application behavior, and I discuss it with one company. It's a kind of startup, very successful. They attracted like millions of dollars recently. So what they develop like some applications, and they analyze behavior of different applications on your devices and compare with real applications. So same with people. If they know your identity and they like know your behavior, they do exactly the same with applications, and with AI it's super easy because that application 100% behave exactly like a real app, and then they know all about you from your smartphone, from your refrigerator with Wi-Fi, air condition, or any other device that you use with internet, right? So it's about IoT devices.
Interesting.
And your product and those trainings, it's only my opinion, but I'm sure they must be in every small, medium business. Enterprises, they are huge, and they are number one for attacks. But small, medium, before they will grow and become enterprise, they must know and prepare all those humans behave and their mistakes to prevent, as Matt mentioned today, to prevent that data breach and stolen credentials, login passwords, all those with malwares. It will be in dark web immediately for 100 or $1,000 on sale, hot sale. So don't be lazy. I am talking to small, medium businesses, and prepare your stuff. Later, if you're not ready, later you will pay in 100, 1,000 times more for this.
Yeah, no, that
Yeah.
makes a lot
The
of
lesson of
sense.
supply chain security, isn't it, as well? You've got
Yes.
the top down, you've got the enterprises. They're not going to let the small, medium businesses off the hook by saying, oh, you're a 10-person business. You don't need to do this. I understand it's a labor or work or cost that you can't bear. We'll be all right. Like, if you're
Correct.
part of a supply chain, you're as weak as your weakest link.
Correct.
So many catchphrases in this session.
It is.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I want to start wrapping things up. So before we finish on the final words from Matt and Enrico, just want to mention Bodan's looking for new opportunities. I'll put a link to his LinkedIn post on this. A comment I made is, and this actually links back to the SKT podcast we did. It's cybersecurity is all about culture. And one of the great things with Bodan is you're getting a culture that's steeped in deep cybersecurity expertise. So what more could you ask for than all the skills that Bodan brings to your organization? So I'll put the links in the podcast, but finishing on Matt and Enrico, very broad discussion, of course worrying, but cybersecurity is always worrying. Just interested in what are the last few comments you want to leave the audience with to either scare or, let them sleep at night.
Yeah, I think from my side, I think we're starting to see more and more AI generated social engineering. It's still a minority compared to the more traditional social engineering that is happening, but it's increasing fast. So we need to act now before before it becomes really widespread. And at that point, it becomes really difficult to kind of tackle. So it's important to start acting today with all sorts of ways we've been talking about, from the training, simulations, policies, technology, etc., etc. They're all
Politely paranoid.
solution, and always being paranoid,
but politely.
but always politely.
Matt?
I think the only thing I'd say is we've been through this before, like as a profession or a problem. We've evolved over multiple decades to address what else comes in front of us, and that's just the nature of the beast. There'll be new problems. This is today. The important thing that we need to keep doing is to recognize that it's like every individual person's to solve. Just as Bodan's saying, it's small, medium enterprise, it's people at home, it's the wider training and awareness teams, it's everybody in the enterprise. We've all got a bit to play. There's plenty of good practice out there. Adopt it. Just move. Try something new. Recognize this is a problem.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Matt. Enrico, this was really fun and insightful. And I'm looking forward to reading your book.